It's shot clock time here on Off the Ball with Kieran Donaghy, where we've got a range of topics and we've each got 2 minutes to go through them. We've got a big tactical preview of Kerry against Donegal coming down the line as well, and of course Donaghy's spot on suggestions for tips this weekend when it comes to both the golf and to the football. You're very welcome, Kieran. What are we starting with?
Owen, we're starting with this talk that our Mayo finished, and I wanted to talk to you about this. Would be good too, Kerry fellas, talking about Mayo being finished. Yeah, just basically, like, it's bothering me big time that that one game, and we're very bad at doing this. We jump to conclusions on a bad game, and Mr. Bradley is at it again, writing teams off, which is always, I get slight worried for, because I know a certain team he wrote off a few years ago. There's no way there's no way that they're gone. I think the video meeting, and I would say James Horan probably had it on Sunday night when they stayed down in Tralee, because I'd say there was a lot of stuff to hit there, and I think he was probably better off doing it that way. They had a very bad day at the office. They just didn't play up to their standards. They didn't get their game style going. They couldn't run the ball because they couldn't win it around the middle of the field. They were just, and Kerry punished them and made them look poorer than they actually are. They have to go beat Meath on. You know, it's going to come down to, I think, that Donegal game, and they'll have a real tight game with Meath, and it's going to come down to that Donegal game. I think you might have Diarmuid O'Connor back, Durkin might be back, Ruan could be back, and that'll be the game in Castlebar that if they can win and they can get themselves into a semi-final, that they're right there where they want to be from the start of the year. But there definitely has been, you know, there'll definitely have to be a real delve into what happened on Sunday, because the stuff they were doing, the decision making, the 45-yard kick passes were all huge. But I don't think they're gone.
No, I think they still have a chance to qualify for sure, but I think if they're missing Matthew Moran, they are finished. I think if Aidan O'Shea has an off day with the current injury crisis, Mayo are screwed. He had an off day on Sunday, Mayo are screwed. It's as simple as that. You can't depend on Aidan O'Shea to be brilliant every single week. His legs might be gone for the season. We just don't know that. You look at their defence, you look at Brendan Harrison, you look at the way David Clifford cleared out that full back line. If they come up against any other elite forward, can that Mayo full back line handle them? The answer is no, Kieran, and I'm sorry, but even with the return of Paddy Durkin and Matthew Moran, that full back line will get exposed.
I know, yeah, but you're talking about the full back line getting exposed, right? And I'll put it to you this way: if you turn over the ball 11 times like they did into the Kerry full back line, if you lamp it out on top of David Moran and Kerry are winning breaks, these great backs like, you know, Higgins, Harrison, they can't cope with the ball coming 24/7 from turnover, which is coming up the field a bit quicker. You're not as many bodies back. It's one-on-one against Gainey and Clifford inside there. You know, you could have the best two full-backs in Ireland. They're going to have a tough day if that amount of ball keeps coming in on top of you. And it's the old thing where, you know, when Kerry struggle, you know, they might be struggling in midfield without David Moran. And why do they struggle then? Because there's more ball coming up the pitch against their defenders. So I think they have to get their restarts better. They have to have more around that. And yeah, obviously, look, if Aidan is carrying a knock, but I think he'll be okay, and get one or two more out there back with him. You know, this Meath game is the one they have to get over.
Let's move on, because Killian O'Connor is now the top scorer in the history of the championship. It is an outrageous achievement given his age, but it's an achievement that we had question marks over in the lead up to, question marks regarding the veracity of his achievement, when exactly it would happen. There is no database for records in the GEA. This again showing that we have brilliant products, brilliant players, and somehow we just can't appreciate them to the nth degree, Kieran.
Yeah, you know, there should be no question of a stat like that, which is, you know, the highest score of all time. It'd be mad to think of it like in the NBA or where stats are big. But stats are so big in the game now that we're going to have to really, you know, mind all these things like championship games, total league games. I know Mayo are good for celebrating their players playing total league games. I don't know how many league games I played with Kerry, but it was never even mentioned, and it should be mentioned because the league now is so important and it's of a high calibre and everybody's going watching it, whereas the league 20 or 30 years ago was a thing to get ready for the championship, but it didn't have the glam, it didn't have the big crowds. The league now is kind of taken over nearly as the best competition sometimes, so they have to get sharper with it, and they have to, you know, there's other stats that we'd love to know, like who's the best tackler, you know, who turns over the ball the most, who wins the most breaking ball in a season. You know, there's stuff that it should be flashing up on our screens when we're talking about Matty Ruan this year, like, you know, or these guys, like, you know, there should be better stats done, and the stats are done, but are they shared? Are they
They're
put
not
up
publicly
there?
available. That's the thing here. Like, just on the scoring record for Killian O'Connor, granted we may have changed over the next couple of years with the Super 8s, there's going to be more games.
Yep.
But if you went back to just a qualifier system, there's no way Killian O'Connor is getting caught for decades here. Given his age, given the fact that he's going to put down a base of this over the next couple of years, it's this weird quirk that Mayo have managed to go through qualifier runs where they've played loads of games and they still also have an elite forward who can score and shoot the lights out.
They won five Connachts in a row, so it's not all back doors, and it's not all poor teams, or someone telling me that they play Sligo. That doesn't matter. There's every county gets that game where you're playing against a poor team every once in a while. Like, this scoring is ridiculous, as in it's so consistent. The effort that he's put into it, and I made the point in Sky during the week, he's a real self-made player. If you're a youngster out there and you want to become good at Gaelic games, and you're not a freak athlete, or you're not, I love these guys that, like even the Gooch was never, a gym rat, and he won't get pissed off at me saying that, but, he was a self-made player. He practiced, he worked in his craft, he worked in his guile, he was just kind of almost a street baller out there. And Killian O'Connor is very much to the same degree with how he carries himself as a forward and how much work he's put in, and we're trying to get kids to go practice all the time, and he's the perfect guy that if you want to be good at football and you want to be a scorer like him and take big frees and take big penalties and take big 45s, he's your guy.
I am always suspicious of a former GA player who's calling for more statistics. It probably suggests that they think they'll be top of some leaderboard when it comes to statistics. So what would you have been top of, Kieran?
I don't know, probably nothing. maybe yellow cards or something like that. Assists. Yeah, assist. You're
the Mesut Ozil of the GEA. So
I'm the John Stockton. Don't mind Mesut Ozil. Don't call me Mesut Ozil of the GEA anyway. I didn't prance around at full forward and not do anything else like Mr. Ozil. But
we're turning to tennis.
We're turning to tennis. Yeah, the GOAT. I love GOAT debates. Federer versus Djokovic. Who you got on?
Djokovic. For me, Djokovic.
So Djokovic, like, there's not even a debate here.
I think that there obviously is a debate, and I think that some people are just not even entertaining this at the moment. I think, without question, Novak Djokovic will be appreciated as the greatest competitor that this sport has ever seen. So you've got to look at this guy who comes into a sport which is dominated by two people. He's being told by everybody, you cannot compete with Rafael Nadal, you cannot compete with Roger Federer. There is no way. But he has the balls to rail against that, to go up and become world number one, to take a better head-to-head record against both of those players. You look at his record against Nadal, 28-26. You look at his record against Federer, 26-22. In finals against Federer, it is 4-1. So to not entertain Djokovic in the GOAT debate is absolute nonsense. You can make a case for Federer. All I'm saying here is give Novak Djokovic a chance. He's done something that Federer could never do. He's beaten Rafa Nadal at Roland Garros. Roger Federer, he's got his Roland Garros title, but he didn't beat Nadal to do it. Ironically, Djokovic didn't actually win the French Open of the year. He did beat Nadal. Like, you look at the lull that he's had, the injuries that he had, he's come back from his mid-career crisis. That is something that Federer had to do as well. So you have to put him right up with them. And you look at his tally now. Federer only had one more than Djokovic when he was Djokovic's age. This is prime for Djokovic to go past 20. Yeah,
it is, and it's like if he goes past 20, it has to be looked at, obviously, of is he going to be the GOAT, and he's got 4 or 5 more to do, and we're not saying Federer won't win 1 or 2 more, but it's like Bill Russell has 11 championship rings in the NBA. He's the most winningest player of all time. Is he the GOAT? He's not, obviously, but like, we can't crowd it with that. What I always try to do with this was, if you put them at their prime and you put them against each other, as in they're both playing at their prime, it's going to obviously be another close game. I'd say it'd be like last week. He's got more than him, but he was totally dominant. Federer was totally dominant against Djokovic in the first 7 or 8 years that they were both going together, and Djokovic has been dominant since. But that's because of their prime lines were passing each other like almost in trains in the night, because you can't have one player so dominant for 6 years and then the next 6 or 7 years the other player is so dominant. So if they were both to play each other's prime, Federer is a better shot maker. I think he's a better shot maker. Djokovic will be more defensive. He's obviously, looked at both classes. We're splitting hairs. The off the ball poll, Federer won, by the way.
That's because Federer is the darling of the world. Everybody loves Roger Federer.
I think everybody likes Novak Djokovic. When they came in, you have to look at it now. Federer is nearly 38, so Djokovic will be going. Murray's gone.
Yeah.
Nadal hasn't been. He's winning these French Opens, but he's not where he was 4 or 5 years ago. So Djokovic is going to do a lot of this. If you look at Djokovic in the last 3 or 4 years, he's been completely dominant. Federer's age has been going up, and now Federer's mightn't be around too much longer.
Yeah.
Murray's gone with injury. Nadal is, going to be thereabouts. But you could say that Federer was battling with Nadal and Murray and Djokovic throughout that.
Just one last question.
Yes.
If Djokovic surpasses Federer and gets to 21 slams, is he the GOAT, in your view?
Yeah, but he's going to be doing a lot of. He's going to surpass that with a guy that's gone 38, 39 years of age, Nadal who's getting older, and Murray who's gone. So, does his last 8 or 9?
Well, the next few maybe, but he still did win.
Oh, he did.
When
Look,
Federer was at his peak. So
yeah.
I don't know. There's actually a good piece by Cullen Buhig up on offtheball.com who's been in with us, and he's actually defending Djokovic. So
yeah, no, it's a good one. It's a good one. Federer for me just has that aura of that GOAT about him, and that's a thing. I know it's talked about, but he just carries himself with that manner the same way Jordan would have. He's right there. It's going to be interesting. I was gutted for him losing Wimbledon the last day, and if he'd have got that, it's a double whammy because Novak is catching up with him all the time when he's not winning them, especially if he beats him in the final. So yeah, I still take Federer though. If I had a game for my life and they're both in their prime, I'm taking Federer.
Right, okay. Let's move on. Yeah, I'll accept that. Let's move on to hurling rather, because there's been a lot of talk over the last couple of days about Cork. Whenever they have a big win, whenever they have a big loss, there's always a lot of talk about Cork. And this week, the angle really, for me, has to be about John Myler. Does he stay or does he go? Now, I've got no issue with the argument being put forward that John Myler did a good job over the last 2 years. They should have been in the All-Ireland final last year, and they can continue to have should-have-been moments if John Myler stays on. He will keep them at where they're at, which is competing at the top level of hurling. But that's not good enough for Cork hurling fans. They want to move on and they want to win All-Irelands. They want to win multiple All-Irelands. And I fear that with John Myler there, who I think has done a decent job, I don't think he's the man to bring them on, Kieran. I think that he is the man to keep them where they're at. And if you're staying where you're at, which given the way hurling is progressing at the moment, you're going backwards. Like the players would have preferred somebody else a couple of years ago. He was not first choice. Frank Murphy is a big fan, and for me that does not help the optics of John Myler. Now granted, it's only optics, but they're still important, and you don't know what could happen when it comes to the supporter and player breakdown. So I'm not sure what you think about that.
Yeah, well, he came in there in a really bad place on. John, he had a lot to do in his hands to get him going. I think he's introduced a lot of young players in the last few years. He won a Munster Championship in 2018. As you rightly pointed out, they were...
But Kieran Kingston introduced a lot of those young players.
Yeah, I know, but he's still brought in a few more since. He's brought in Mark Coleman and he's brought in a few after Kingston that were on the verges of him, but he's still taking it on another level. Like if you look at that game against Limerick last year in the semi-final, like that was unbelievably titanic. And Limerick have looked so good since that. Like they beat Galway, they were comfortable against Galway along the way until Galway made the spurt late on. But I'm always saying on Shot Clock that we need to back managers and give them a bit of time and let them learn from their mistakes and let them get better. Like I see Cork players playing for John Myler. When I look at them, when I see their interactions off the pitch afterwards, I see them playing. I'm not privy to what's going on behind the scenes. I'm not privy to what's going on in the dressing room. I just know a bunch that are playing for manager. Could John Myler maybe freshen it up next year? Could he bring in a Donegal? Could he bring in a Derek McGrath? Could he go kind of like the Declan Bonner route and look for that guy that's going to come in, that's going to add a bit of impetus to the backroom team? But a manager is a guy that oversees all this, and the players have to want to play for him. And I see that they have that with Cork, and I think that they should. If I was there, to give them more time. You're bringing in somebody new. It's a whole new regime. You have to get used to their style of play. You have to get used to everything again. It's not always the quick fix. We think it's the quick fix because that's all we see over in the Premiership and over in England is managers. Oh, he's had a bad loss. Get rid of him. Get another guy in.
But this is 2 years.
Oh, 2 years. Yeah. So what? What's 2 years? How long did I play football for Kerry? 15 years. I'm sure there was 2 years where I wasn't very good at the time. They weren't saying get rid of me because I'm a player because I'm going to be there.
Well, I'd accept your argument that they need to bring in somebody new at the very least.
Why don't they just bring in somebody new into the backroom team?
Under John Myler, like potentially he won't get as good a voice like that. He won't actually have the full control of the dressing room. Like I mean, I think it's just crystallised in their puckouts on Sunday. They had a plan A, it didn't work. They had no plan B. It's as simple as that. They need a new voice in there, and maybe there is a compromise in what you're saying there, but I think there definitely needs to be a shake-up.
I think it is, and like, you know, I'm sure the players and the county board will have a vibe around John, but I came across him down in Photo Island with John, and just, you know, seeing their interactions with him, they all looked like he was a guy that they really admired, and you know, he knows the game. But could he maybe bring in somebody to give him a hand, or just not even to give him a hand, just to freshen it up? You know, it doesn't always have to be get rid of the manager, because when you get rid of the manager, you're getting rid of all the selectors, you're getting rid of all the backroom team. It happened in Kerry this year. Peter Keane came in, everybody that was in the old regime was gone. It was all new, and you know, it takes a bit of time to bed that in. He's coming from a very successful minor background, so he had his crew that he knew how to work with, that he knew how to win, and that's fine. But for John Myler, could he bring in somebody else that would come in as a coach or a selector or whatever, that could maybe work on more puck outs or whatever? It's an option, but I just think we shouldn't be so quick to get rid of managers. It just bothers me, really, to be honest.
We're dedicating a good chunk of this morning's shot clock to Kerry against Donegal. We're getting into the tactical battle here, Kieran. I've got a feeling this could be the game of the summer.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. It's going to be a really good game, and Donegal are going to give Kerry a real test, because Kerry didn't get that test. Their nerve wasn't tested last Sunday. They came out of the blocks. They punished every little Mayo mistake. They looked really good up front. They got an amount of ball. When I look back on it, they were very sloppy in the second half. There'll be loads Kerry will be saying that we have to be better at the next day. There was loads. They were, you know, just taking it into contact at the wrong times, going in against two guys, turning the ball over. You know, I'm sure when Kerry look back at the video, they'll be looking at that second half and they'll know that's not good enough. And they'll know that it's not good enough for a team at this development, that if you have a chance to kind of bury somebody, you got to step on their throat. If Killian O'Connor sticks the goal and sticks the penalty, it ends up as a 3-point game. Everybody's saying Kerry is so good. So Kerry will know that, and the boys will know that it's a good win. It's good for the confidence. Good to get some fellas going well. Good that the defence looks solid, but the defence wasn't tested with what really bothers Kerry, because Mayo had no platform in the middle of the field to drive forward. They didn't have Durkin and Keegan and these fellas bombing on. They didn't have a Diarmuid O'Connor coming through the middle, because they didn't have those guys out there, and they did a lot of kicking, and our full back line were really good at coming out in front and winning ball. But Donegal are going to test them, and when you look at Clark's kick-outs the last day against Kerry, Kerry got if Kerry are in red, they got the fourth man in here, and they were kind of playing 3 out here, and they were bringing up 2, so they were kind of in that kind of a press. But what they were doing to Clark is they were saying, you're not getting it out short, and when he couldn't get it out short, and he put 1 or 2 out over the sidelines, and again, this is Fitzgerald Stadium, it plays tighter than a Croke Park. You'll be able to put that out there in Croke Park, because when you put it out in Fitzgerald Stadium, it hits and it's gone out over the sidelines. So he ended up lamping it out. Dave Moran started cleaning up around the middle, ably aided by Edo Spillane, and yeah, sure, the boys had the life of Riley, ball coming in. It was almost like the old days where I used to kick a pint and just go out there and stand there, and the keeper would kick it out, and I'd just jog in and wait for Dara to catch it and know it was coming again. There was no worried about short kick outs or having to run after fellas. But Donegal are going to pose so many different problems. Donegal are so sharp on the restarts, it's frightening. What they're doing a lot of is they're hitting Murphy. So if Donegal are in blue, they're back defending. And we know they like to defend in numbers, okay? They know they like to get bodies back. And they leave Jamie Brennan and Paddy McBrearty up front. And they'll interchange as well. But what they do is when they get back here and Kerry are the Reds and Kerry have a shot, you'll see Michael Murphy will start heading out the middle the minute the ball goes wide over the bar. And he'll start heading away out here. Patton who's been brilliant. He's a real plus factor. Patton has the ball down, and there's a few things they're doing. The first thing they're doing is they look if Murphy's got a load of space in here, either side of him, and these two guys are working in tandem. Ryan McHugh. So Ryan McHugh right in this position is looking at Michael Murphy, he's looking at Patton, and numerous times the last day he was pointing to hit Murphy long. And this is what he was doing, hit Murphy long, because he was in a good position to come off this here. And we've seen him do it before. We saw him to do it to Dublin in 2012. It's not something new, but they're really good at doing it. They're really good at understanding when the right time to do it is. And they always seem to, like 3 or 4 times against Meath, they spotted this opportunity. They nailed the execution of the kick. And Murphy is so good and so strong at holding his man off and getting a little run and tapping it to Ryan McHugh that's coming off his shoulder here. Murphy taps it, McHugh is gone, it's open sesame. They should have got probably a goal or two late on against Meath the last day.
Meath just fouled him a couple of times in that occasion.
Yeah, they did, and that's one of them. And another one then is where Murphy's jogging out and he's looking over his shoulder at Patton, so he's looking over his shoulder to see his Patton the ball down. Patton has it down, he'll jog up here, he'll get a little nudge in his man and he'll break to a wing. And he's getting hit with this one where he's winning it into his chest and the backs are coming off him. So they've got to really, like, if you're Kerry the next day and you're on Michael Murphy and there's a shot and he starts heading out, it should be nearly alarm bells ringing for you, because you need to understand that he is going out here to go get the ball, whether it's right, whether it's left, or whether he just says, I've got space, put it down on top of me, and the guys know that once it's long out the middle, it's like, it's alarm bells for all these guys. It's long out the middle, that means we're going to go, and somebody's going to get the break and they're going to be through. They did another good one as well with McFadden a few times the last night, where Patton's having the ball and the same kind of scenario, they're all back, and McFadden heads out here to the sideline. And what they do is they hit him with a long one, but what he likes to do is go up and spoil with his man. And he knocked it on once, and another time he kind of just jumped into his man in the air, and neither of them touched it. But it's hitting this half-back who's bombing up. So there's a half-back going wide, and this is, again, I would say it's in tandem. So I'd say they have guys, they look to, some of their backs look to a guy out the field. Is that Murphy? Okay, I'm supposed to be getting off Murphy. No, for this kick out. Goes out here to McFadden. Half-back is gone, off the half-forward. He either taps it on or doesn't do anything at all, and this guy gets it going into space, and Paddy McBrearty got the goal off of that kick out.
Yes.
So, like, you know, they're so sharp, and then they've got they're good in breaks, they're good when they go. Patton can obviously hit all these short ones, and Donegal are running, and I think if Kerry are to do anything on him the next day, they have to be ballsy, they have to press up, because if you're going to give Donegal the ball, you're going to have this team that are you know, won't do what Mayo did the last day, which was work it up, maybe getting a bit impatient, try and hit an inside guy. They'll work it through the lines, they'll get it up, they'll be very patient, they'll do a lot of coming on the loop, and they're doing the Dublin one a lot too, which is a good one, where Kerry are in red and the Donegal ball carrier is coming down here with a man. And the old one that Dublin perfected was the kind of slip and screen, so he'll slip it to him and he'll screen his man, and this guy will come on the loop and kick scores, and we've seen Dublin do that for ages. But another one they're doing now is the ball carrier is coming down the line and he's being marked, and the corner forward is coming on the loop, and if this defender gets high to cut off the loop, they're coming up and they're just back cutting into space. And McBrearty's done that, and Jamie Brennan have done that, and they're two very dangerous guys to do it, because once they beat you on that first step, and this is an understanding between the half forward who's soloing down the wing with a corner forward coming out, the ball carrier, I presume this has been worked on in training, where we've two things to do here. We've three things actually. I can go down here, pass to you, you can come and kick on the loop, right? I can come and fake pass to you and you can kind of bump screen my man, and I can just go past you and along the inline with the ball. Or else the backdoor cut that teams are getting right now, that Dublin have, obviously from Sherlock and Jim Gavin, very much on a basketball thing. It's a backdoor cut. It's fairly simple. You're coming down here, he's coming out, sees the defender any bit high. So if I'm coming out for the loop off of you on and I see my defender ahead of you, I'm stopping one step and I'm gone back behind, and this is a hand pass over the top. Guys coming across here, defender helps, back post, tap it into the net. They're getting loads of stuff off of that.
Loads of them.
Dublin did it against Meath in the league final, where they came down here and it went in and it came back out and it came across, and Conor Callahan was here and he saw that the ball was being recycled and he saw there was a load of space in this corner, so he headed out there, and I was like, I saw it from behind the goal, so he just headed out, and he headed out because he knew the ball was going to come down here, and he knew what he was doing.
They set up the move.
They set up the move. So he was out there knowing, and he was pointing to give it out to the wing to get that. So that's kind of like, that's what Donegal are doing really well, is they're good at working it up and being really patient and picking the right pass inside, and their restarts are excellent, which is kind of like a cheap counter-attack for them. It's the counter-attack without all the hacking around here. It's patting down, it's 70 yards, it's Murphy tip and you're gone. It's happening.
Do Kerry then not press? How do they counteract that? Because they did it so many times against me, then it worked.
Yeah, I'd be probably slightly more aggressive. I'd be slightly more aggressive on this if I was pressing. and Murphy's the danger here long, and they've got everybody back, I'd have my two defenders off their men there to try and put Patton off kicking it. If he sees man marked and he sees two guys either side, now this kick out has to be dead straight, because if he screws it any bit, you've got one of your backs getting it. But I still think they have to push up and take away the short ones and know these set plays are in place. They'll have done their video, they'll know these things are there. So the kick out going long is of course a danger, but if you're on Ryan McHugh, you know you've got to be ball side of him. You know when you're going out underneath Murphy, you know you're going to have to see what way Murphy's going to tap it. If you're a help defender, you've got to get in here underneath Murphy. You've got to know, you've got to look over your shoulder and say, oh, there's Murphy, he could go long. You see he might take a 2 or 3 step up, try and bang it. That's in the air for 3 seconds. You've time to get underneath it. That break becomes a vital break to win. But I'd still, if you're going to give them short all the time, and you're going to let Donegal run up with the players they have in the ball handlers, and Owen Ball Gallagher and Neil McGee and Paddy McGrath, and these fellas are just going to keep bombing, and they're good, they're smart, they know they have to get it up in here, they know they got 4 danger men if you throw Murphy in with the lads. So yeah, it's going to be a good battle the weekend, I won't lie.
Yeah, good stuff. It's a great breakdown. Let's get into our predictions then for this weekend. Kieran's predicted what the tactics are going to be. We're going to get into what the results are going to be. So we'll start with that game. We'll start with Kerry against Donegal. Results-wise, what are you looking at here, Kieran?
I was doing this for my column yesterday in the Star, and I was over and back, and I did a real sit in defence. It's a hard one to call. I can have my Kerry hat on and kind of go, they were really good last week, confident to be high, they'll be mad for a go at Donegal. I look at Donegal and, you know, they've looked a bit more imperious in all their games, whereas Kerry looked really good last weekend but didn't really set the world alight from the league final to the Clare game to the Cork game. The last day was kind of like their emergence. If I and this is the way I said it this is the way I said it in my article. If I was putting money on the game, I'd be backing a draw.
Right.
So take what you like, because I think a draw for these two games, for these two teams, is not the worst result in the world, and I think they'll kind of.
If it comes down to it, 65 minutes on the clock.
I think that it's not like it's 65 minutes on the clock and it's winner goes through and the loser's out. I think you start becoming a bit cautious, and you know, a draw here, lads, isn't the worst thing in the world, and we'll figure it out in the last game. Not that you'll be setting up a draw, and wouldn't even be 65 minutes on, it'd probably be 72 or 3 minutes, and there's 2 minutes to go. Maybe Kerry are level, maybe they say, hold on, we'll mind the ball, lads. A draw leaves it still in our own hands next week, which is what you want to do. So if I was putting money on it, I'd go for a draw. If I'm going with my heart, I say Kerry. If I'm going with my head, I say maybe Donegal by a point.
Really?
So take what you mean off of that.
My hot take is that this is going to be the game of the summer. I think Kerry's defence won't be as hailed as it will last week.
No, it'll be tested
on Sunday. But I think the same goes for Donegal. And I think who's got the best set of forwards? I think Kerry still have the best set of forwards. Kerry to win this by 2 or 3 points on Sunday for me, Kieran. We'll talk about the other football game you want to chat about, Cork Tyrone. What way are you looking at this one?
Yeah, I think this will be a good game as well. I think Cork will enjoy the battle of trying to break down, and they've got players, they got deep guys inside in Hurley and Mark Collins and Luke Connolly that can go deep across the line and cause Tyrone a bit of hassle in there. But I do expect Tyrone to pull away in the end, and I think they could frustrate Cork in the end, because Cork will run into the massive bodies over and over again, and they might get joy at different stages, and they might get a goal, and they might be going well. But I think as that game goes on, you just get tired, you start making mental mistakes, and I'm taking Tyrone in that.
Yeah, so am I. I think this is actually potentially the best defensive system they've come up against all year. I think they won't have
it's the best defensive system out there, bar Dublin at the moment, Tyrone.
Well, like even when it comes to a system, when it comes to the utilisation of a sweeper, is Colm Kavanagh better than anything Dublin actually have to offer in that department as well?
Yeah, and I like the way Kavanagh has kind of adapted his game. Not only is he doing the sweeping now, but he's becoming an offensive threat.
Yeah.
He's hanging out. If Tyrone are in red, he's hanging out around the middle, and they're recycling the ball. And he always knows, he's always looking for a gap. And as they recycle it, he makes this mad run in at 100 miles an hour. And if he doesn't get this, what he does is he takes 3 or 4 defenders with him, And then they're hitting a Matty Donnelly who's throwing it over the bar because Cavan has run through the middle, has taken sweepers that were sitting there that are gone with him, and now he's tapping it over. So he's added that little facet to his game, so he's helping Tyrone with that he's not just this guy that sits back in the top of the D. That was his role for a few years. He was heralded at it. But I think we found out against Dublin that doesn't work because Dublin aren't going to turn it over as much. You're probably going to play in Dublin and Croke Park, and you need to have more to your bow than that, and I think he's kicked on with points.
Lastly then, the Open, who are we looking at? It is underway. So
it's underway, yeah. I don't know any scores, so you don't need to tell me, but
go ahead.
Jordan Spieth is my pick. I'm 2 from 3 in the majors. I was talking to somebody that watched Jordan play a practice round in Portrush, and laser was the word I was told. He was like a laser at flags, and we know how good of a putter he is. And he's a guy who I think likes links golf. He's a guy that likes the challenge of it. I don't think he'd be, moaning if the weather's too bad or anything. I just think he'll once he doesn't have a fight with his caddy in the way around, I think he's got a good chance.
Well, I can't say that friend of the shot clock, James Sugar, is joint leader at the moment at 2 under par alongside Darren Clark.
By Jamesy.
So it's been a good old start for him. We'll get him back on after he's Open champion.
Oh yeah, and he was big odds too last night.
He certainly was. Kieran, good stuff. We'll chat to you next week.
Thanks a million.